we are at Ardyne, at the southern tip of the Cowal Peninsula, to explore a monument which offers a window into Argyll's ancient pagan past. Here, on the shores of Loch Striven, we're searching for the Creag na Cailleach, the ancient stone of the winter hag.
In Gaelic mythology, the Cailleach is a divine hag, a goddess linked to the dark months of winter and wild, stormy weather. In Scotland, she is known as the Storm Hag, or Beira, Queen of the Winter. In Scots Gaelic, her name means old woman, hag, or veiled one. She is said to be fearsome to look upon, with a dark blue, dull complexion, teeth as red as rust, and only one eye which was as keen and sharp as ice and as swift as the mackerel in the ocean. At the start of the winter, her hair was long and white and her clothing dark and grey, except for a dun-coloured plaid which she wrapped tightly around her shoulders. She is often described as riding the back of a giant wolf. The Cailleach is the very personification of winter. She herds deer, she fights spring, and her staff, the slachtan, freezes the earth where she taps the ground. In Gaelic mythology, she is seen as the embodiment of the destructive elemental powers of nature, and she is said to be particularly active in raising the windstorms of the spring during the period known as a Cailleach.
Some interpretations of the Cailleach's legend have her assuming a stone form at the start of summer. Now, the legends say that when she was in this shape, the stone itself would be moist, echoing the life and the life force that was inside the rock. The Cailleach would take on her rock form at some point between Imbolc, which was the start of the Celtic calendar of spring, or at the start of Beltane on the 1st of May, when the Celtic summer began. As well as being the first day of Imbolc, the 1st of February is the day that the Cailleach would go out and gather her firewood. If she did so, she would make sure the weather was really nice and sunny, and there would be a break in the bad storms of winter. This was usually bad news to the locals living here at Ardyne, because suspicion went that if the Cailleach was nipping out to get more firewood, it meant she needed more fire to see her through the rest of winter, and that the storms of winter would continue for weeks to come. Always a bad sign. At the end of winter, the Cailleach would throw her staff under a holly or a gorse bush, trees which are sacred to her, signifying the end of winter when she was about to turn to stone. So what about where the ancient settlers of Ardyne chose to locate the Creag na Cailleach? To the modern audience, this stone seems at the edge of the community. It's at the end of a one-track road, 20 minutes away from the nearest town. Few people have reason to come here. This wouldn't have been the case in ancient times. For the ancient community living in Ardyne, this stone would have been in the heart of their agricultural existence. With the fertile pasture land up on the hillside behind me, this stone would have been a focus for the people to come down and give their offerings and observe their rituals to do with the fertility of the fields and the cycle of their lives.
Archaeology shows that the ancient population of the Ardyne area of Cowal was much higher than it is today. A dun and a hill fort overlook a wide plateau of fertile farmland, protecting what would have been an area of prized real estate for those scraping a living off the land amongst the mountainous and boggy glens of Argyll. The high concentration of Neolithic and Bronze Age tombs in the area hints at ongoing occupation by a population with enough labour to write their own monumental constructions. This also hints at a population in tune with ritual, keen to observe the religious and spiritual aspects of life. It is in this context that Creag na Cailleach would have been raised and worshipped as the generations slipped by. For the Celts, the stone would have been a direct link to the winter goddess and their supernatural spirits.
The Cailleach was a three-part goddess. At the start of winter, she would appear as a wizened old crone. By midwinter, she was a mother. By the end of winter, she was a beautiful young woman. As well as representing the horror and the anger of Scotland's winter storms, the Cailleach is a fertility goddess. She represents crops, renewal, childbirth, fertility. It's not just the negative that the Celtic people would be worshipping her and fearing her for. She was also part of their community, part of their everyday lives. To encourage her favour, those living nearby the Cailleach stone in ancient times would have left the products of the harvest at the stone as an offering to the goddess, symbolising her fertility in keeping their crops going.
The fertility myth of the Cailleach was brought into reality at harvest time. The first farmer in the community to bring in his crop would make a corn dolly known as a countryman's favour from his last sheaf of wheat. He would then throw it into the field of a farmer who had not yet finished bringing in his grain. The last farmer to finish would have the responsibility of looking after the corn dolly for the duration of next year, with the implication he'd have to house and feed the unpredictable hag and endure her unpredictable manipulation of events. Competition to avoid taking the old woman in would have been fierce, and we can imagine the farmers of Ardyne racing each other to take in their crops once the first farmer made his move.
As kingdoms and wars have come and gone, here on the shores of Loch Striven, the ancient monument of the Creag na Cailleach has endured the ravages of the past. For your own window into Argyll's ancient past, why not come down and pay this monument a visit for yourself? If you liked today's video, please click like and hit the subscribe button below. If you come and visit the site, please add a comment to the comment section. Thank you for watching.